Hi there, Nico here from Greenspace Zambia, and today, at the height of our kind of winter period here in Zambia, we're going to talk about desert roses. The various different adenium plants that are out there. These ones are obesum, usually with the kind of broader, more kind of spoon-shaped leaves. Not necessarily always a big trunk or caudex to them, but that depends on the genetics of the plant. And usually kind of larger, bright pink through to red flowers, although obviously with the breeding that has been done in the last decade plus, that has pushed the envelope into purples, white, even going for yellows and things like that now as well. But because it is our winter time, we do have to take a few things to consider with these kinds of plants. So here where I have these ones growing, this is kind of facing north. As here in the southern hemisphere, in our winter period, the sun moves into the northern part of the sky, and facing these guys north will take greater advantage of what heat is generated by the sun during the day to at least create a little bit more of a warmer climate here for them, which hopefully then pushes them into flowering a little earlier and can prolong flowering a little longer. It also helps that we do have a bit of a reflective surface of the brick here, which can absorb some heat during the day and reflect back to the plants at night also. Then we do not really water these plants very much at all during this time of year, where our temperatures are now down until maybe about 6, 7, 8 degrees Celsius at night. We have to be very careful how much water we are giving these plants, mainly just because cold and wet weather will cause the roots and the stems to rot much, much faster than anything else. Once we hit the hot weather, that changes obviously as the plants will be using up more moisture from the ground. But at this time of year, they're not necessarily using up too much, and we want to be very cautious how much water we are giving. So with these plants here, which are about 12 years old for us, we are watering only once a month. And that will continue until we hit the warmer season, which usually is going to be starting around September. I do keep an eye on the temperatures as we switch from July into August to see if we're going up there, in which case I might start to increase the watering. But again, it still depends on the temperatures, especially the overnight temperatures that we get. When I do go around at this time of year and water, I am looking out for a few things beyond just admiring the flowers on these plants. This time of year is kind of good as they start to drop some leaves before shooting out a new flush of leaves. You can kind of get a sense of how the look of the plant is and planning your future pruning of these plants to maximum effect, basically. It also gives you an opportunity to have a look and see if there's any disease or insect pests that are bothering it. And luckily, the desert roses are generally pretty free of most problems, but that isn't always the case. Things like mealybug can be a problem, and what you'll see with the mealybug is usually the leaves don't come out quite nice and expanded. They'll be contorted, they'll be distorted, and then you have to deal with that. Similarly, something like there is a specific hawk moth, the oleander hawk moth, that will eat the leaves, flowers, and even stems of the plants, given the opportunity. And this is the time of year where you start to look out for signs of that. And we will talk about that just now. So on this side of our patio, we have mostly the Arabicum type of desert roses. And these ones are more characterized by the very thick, kind of short, stubby caudex, and then these short, stubby branches that come off of these. And you can see here, and in the ones that are just going to the back of it, and even this little one in front here, they're all quite stubby with a very short stem part, and then the little branches that come off of it are usually pretty short as well. These ones generally tend to flower when they are leafless. You can see a few leaves just shooting out, but mostly they are looking at coming out when the whole plant has already dropped its leaves. And these ones I generally tend to keep slightly on the drier side. So there might be a month or so where I even skip watering these, just because I want to make sure that it's not going to rot. These guys come more from up into the Arabian Peninsula, where it can be much drier than what some of the southern species do experience. Similarly, we've got Somaliense here, and this one is usually more easily identified by the very narrow, almost linear leaves to these plants. And this one I have struggled with in Zambia, and I now don't really water it at all during the cold season. So it might go 4 or 5 months before I give it any more water. It's recently reshot all of its leaves out, but with these cold temperatures, I feel it's always best to just err on the side of caution and not water it, because this stem seems to be more susceptible to rot, unfortunately. And as I push on it right now, I can feel that this is a little bit squishy. So I'll have to even have a look at that one right now, just to make sure that, that it's not rot and that it's just using up water from the stem for the time being. So it really does depend on which type of desert rose you have, which species or the genetics from which species the plants, the hybrids are derived, to then ensure that you're going to treat them properly so that they do survive our cold season and flower brilliantly for you and give you a nice display. Because as you can see from the seed of the Arabicum that I got quite a number of years ago, we have quite different flower forms of these that are coming out. And there may be some hybridization in this. You can never guarantee, unfortunately, when you're buying seeds sometimes, that you're getting absolute proper species, but sometimes it's just nice to see the variation you do get.